Hubert Davis has extended scholarship offers to a set of twins. But it's not just any old set of twins. It's Duke royalty. I love this move, and I'm about to tell you why.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to welcome you in to today's show to start a new week here on the program. Coming up, well, we had some wild Caleb Love news late last week. A new national championship for North Carolina over the weekend that's been a long time in the making. We're going to get to all of that later in the show. But first, we got to start right here with my man, Hubert Davis, just doing work. What do I mean? Well, let me tell you. On Sunday, it was announced that Hubert had offered his 5th and 6th scholarships in the class of 2025. That's the rising junior class. And as I said off the open, it's to a pair of twins. You might have heard of this, but I don't want to assume that you have. If you haven't, well, let me start by telling you this. You might have heard of their father. His name is Carlos. Carlos won a national championship at Duke in 2001. He's real good at basketball. And so are his sons, these twins. And those twins just picked up scholarship offers from Hubert Davis and North Carolina. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's Carlos Boozer that I'm talking about, who played at Duke in the late 90s, early 2000s, won a national championship in 2001, and went on to a very successful, albeit injury-riddled NBA career. His twins are going to be juniors in the upcoming class. Cameron Boozer, who's going to be is currently number 1 in the class of 25, according to 247 Sports. And then Cayden Boozer, who's number 30, to the 247 Sports composite, which compiles several different recruiting services together. And then Cayden, who's number 31 in the class, according to that same composite. 247's own rankings have him higher than that. Now, as to these young men in their game, I do want to talk about that, but I want to push that off to later this week. So we'll talk about their game, talk about the possibility of them coming to North Carolina. I will go ahead and tell you, just so you have some frame of reference, they are kind of different players. Cam, the one that's rated number 1 overall, is a power forward. He's 6'9", right now 215, while Cayden is a little bit smaller. He's more of a shooting guard, 6'3", 190. And so two different players. In terms of Cameron, he's the dude at the top of the heap right now, but obviously Cayden is no slouch himself. Here's where I want to go with this. I actually want to start by sharing with you some of the comments on Joe Tipton that puts out all the, like, hey, this player's committing or this player committed, all that. And you'll see those graphics on Instagram and Twitter and all that. Well, the twins put out the news on their Instagram on Sunday. That's where we learned about it. And so Tipton obviously took that and tweeted about it. I want to read you some of the comments. Some of these are from North Carolina people, some of them obviously from other schools. Not all of the comments. It's about 6 or 7 that I've picked out. I just want to give you the frame of reference for what people are saying so that you understand where I'm coming from when I say my thoughts on this. And these are all quotes. Waste of time. No point. Duke locks. On what planet? Them some Duke boys. Another one. I mean, these are like all different quotes. This is the 5th one here. Who does Hubert Davis think he is? End quote. 6, waste of an offer. End quote. 7, open quote, Cameron is named after Duke's arena. End quote. Now, I want to come back and respond to a couple of those in a minute. But maybe you're feeling this exact same way, that this is a waste of time, that there's no point. They're going to go to Duke. They're going to follow what their dad did coming from Alaska down to Durham, North Carolina. I want to point out and say two things that I firmly believe. Number one, why not go make a legit push after these two young men? Sure, they may be Duke locks, but go get them. In this day and age where people kind of change allegiances all the time, there's nothing to say that they are fixtures locked in on Duke just because of that's where their dad went. Now, I mean, obviously that's the most likely thing. He had a really good experience at Duke and loves the school, right? That's great. Still, make a legit push for these two young men. Second thing about this for me, even if you do make that legit push from number one, even if you don't land them, I love Hubert Davis going after them. I love what it says to not only Duke, to not only John Shire, but to America. Hey, listen, my name's Hubert Davis, and I'm going to go after any young man in this country. I'm not backing down from anything. I don't care if they are princes at Duke in line to be, the next thing there. I love that Hubert Davis won't back down. I love that Hubert Davis won't concede. I love that he's saying, come on, bring me your best noise. I'm here for it. You see what I've already done in the class of 2024? Yeah. So I want you to think that even if you, whoever school it is, in this case, Duke, even if you think you have a sure thing on your hands, I'm coming for him and I'm going to make my play. I might not get him, but you need to know that nothing is locked up if Hubert Davis isn't play. Does that make sense? Like, that's why I love him doing this. So to me, when I read things, I want to go back to these. Quote, waste of time? I don't think so at all. I think it's a great use of your time to show, yeah, we're coming. No point. Absolutely, there's a point in this. You're marking a line in the sand to say Hubert Davis is here and Hubert Davis is winning on the recruiting trail. Some of the other ones there. I love this one. Quote, who does Hubert Davis think he is? Hubert Davis thinks he's the guy that right now has the number one class in 2024. And so if he wants your quote unquote Duke locks, he's going to come for him. Waste of an offer. I don't think it is a waste of an offer. I think go get him. And then perhaps my favorite one is that Cameron, the one that's number one right now, is named after Duke's arena. And my response to that, which will make it all the more hilarious and beautiful when he beats them in the arena that he's named for when he's wearing North Carolina clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's lock these young men in. Let's get some boozer boys in baby blue. Am I right? Yes, absolutely. So again, Hubert Davis might not land them, but he needs to make a legit push. And number two, I love what him making that legit push says to other people about don't come for us. Hubert Davis is coming for you. Well, we will continue to talk about them more. As I said, I'll unpack their games a little bit more later this week, why they're different, how they might be similar, and what they could bring to Carolina if Hubert Davis were in fact to land them. What a coup that would be. I would love it. Well, some interesting developments in the Caleb Love saga over the weekend, and several people have asked me, is Carolina about to get back Caleb Love? No. But we do need to talk about it and what's going on with Caleb and unpack all of that. We'll do that in just a second. But first, let me tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Built. Are you looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories? Then you got to try the best tasting protein bar out there, Built. Perhaps you're like me and you're trying to make some healthier snack choices right now, but you don't want to compromise on taste. Then I've got just the thing for you. It's these Built bars and Built puffs. Not only are they healthy, but they do taste amazing. Why so? What makes them taste so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real dark chocolate. Not to mention that the flavors of Built are really legitimately good. Churro, peanut butter brownie, things like that. And I'm not sure how Built does it, but they really do keep these bars healthy while still tasting good. For example, these macros, they're great. Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, but yet they have 17 grams of protein. That's great. And now, one of my favorite things, I don't have to sit around twiddling my thumbs waiting on an order to come from built.com. I can just head on down to my local Walmart or Sam's Club, pick up a box, and I'm ready to go right now. So go get yourself some Built, a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. Coming up this week on Locked On Tar Heels, you everydayers, make sure you're with us as we unpack more about the Boozer twins. We want to look at that. Some more Jarin Stevenson news might be in the works. All sorts of stuff going on there that we got to talk about. I want to talk about my guy, Riley Davis, who's been on the show before, had a really interesting article about Harrison Ingram late last week. I want to unpack that with him. And so we'll look at a lot of those things coming up later in the week. So everydayers, stay tuned with us. Make sure you're part of that. If you're not an everydayer, come join us. Okay, so we learned last week that Caleb Love is not going to Michigan, is not going to be academically allowed to get in to Michigan. So I had a lot of questions about this. Part of it was, hey, Isaac, why aren't you talking about this? Well, if you were with us, you know that late last week, Thursday and Friday, I was actually on a trip with my wife, kind of end of the academic year and just need to get away. So I had a pre-recorded Thursday and Friday's shows. And so now is the first opportunity for me to really talk about this Caleb Love scenario and what's going on. So I'm sure you're dialed into this because you're listening or watching this podcast, that Caleb Love left Carolina, had verbally committed to Michigan. And now we learn that he is not actually going to be able to transfer to Michigan because of credits and some things with admissions. A couple things we need to talk about here. Number one, people immediately start freaking out about North Carolina. Oh, goodness, is this a reflection on the Tar Heels or UNC at Chapel Hill as an academic institution? Absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with North Carolina. There is nothing. I think that's the immediate thing people jump to is we had that scandal. Is this part of that? No, absolutely not. In fact, North Carolina is and remains one of the most prestigious academic institutions in the country. This is a Michigan thing, not a North Carolina thing. Michigan has had these issues just last offseason. Texas Tech transferred Terrence Shannon, who wound up at Illinois. The reason he wound up at Illinois is because he wanted to go to Michigan and it didn't happen. Again, an academics and admissions thing. You might remember a couple of years ago, Nogel Eastern wanted to leave Purdue and go to Michigan. Academics couldn't do it. In fact, there's a young man who's supposed to be part of Michigan's incoming freshman class, Papa Conte. No dice. Admissions, once again, the issue. So hear this and know that it's not North Carolina at fault, especially from what I understand about everything with Michigan's academics. The further you get into your career and the more niche the classes you're taking and other things are, that it's kind of difficult with Michigan to make stuff work there. And so just know that that's one side of it is this is not a negative reflection on North Carolina's academic program. So relieve yourself of any fear of that. Secondly, one of the things people would automatically wonder is, oh, well, Carolina still has those 3 scholarships. Mightn't Caleb Love just change his mind now and come back? Well, per things I've heard, per Matt Norlander from CBS and some sources of his, that a return to North Carolina is not in the cards for this thing. So do not get hopeful that Caleb might come back to Chapel Hill. And I know some people, again, so polarizing, so divided on people's Caleb Love thoughts. I know some of you are like, please don't let him come back to Chapel Hill. And some of you are like, oh man, I'd love it if Caleb came back. That's not on the table right now. So don't, for good or bad, whatever your thoughts are, don't have those thoughts in mind. That train is just too far down the tracks and it's not going to happen. It seems like it seems like where Caleb actually will go would probably, again, most likely, be one of the other places he was looking at before committing to Michigan. For me, the most obvious choice would be Missouri, although I know they have several guards already part of their roster. Indiana was another place he was looking. They've got Khalil Ware coming in, and obviously Mackenzie Mbako recently, and so that could be an intriguing fit for him. They lost some backcourt help, and obviously he would be part of doing something new there. This is not going to happen, what I'm about to say, but I want to see this happen. Caleb Love, being a St. Louis native, I would love to see him go to SLU, to St. Louis University. I just think it would be really neat. Now, I know that that's not how this works, right? You're a high major D1 player, and if you end up going somewhere like St. Louis University, it's not as prestigious, and it's, the games aren't all televised to the same level and degree of North Carolina or another high major, and I get that. I just think it would be awesome to see somebody doing this, going to SLU or someplace like that, and just absolutely going bonkers. And anyway, it would be rad. It's not going to happen. Again, my thought is that he will ultimately choose Missouri or Indiana, one of those places he was already talking about. Here's what we also need to realize about everything on the bigger, broader college basketball conversation. Because obviously for us in North Carolina, this is specifically a Caleb Love conversation. But I do believe it is informative for us about the fuller landscape of college basketball. It makes you realize the instability of things until a young man has signed. And so that's why you're not seeing, like, if a player commits but hasn't yet signed, that you're not going to see that program's Twitter handle posting about, hey, Caleb Love is a Michigan commit. You're not going to see that until he has signed on the dotted line. And that's why you see a lot of those like generic GIFs like, yay. And obviously it's talking about Caleb Love, but they're not going to say it. That's why I always work at trying to be very careful to say things like Caleb Love has verbally committed to Michigan, because on his end, it's in place and he's going to do it, but it's not set in stone and won't be until he has signed that national letter of intent. And so just keep these things in mind, that as you're hearing stuff, it is not a done deal until we have signed on the bottom dotted line. Well, the University of North Carolina had yet another national championship take place over the weekend. I want to update you on that, as well as the men's baseball team, which is getting into ACC conference play. And we'll do that in just a second. But first, I need to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make it a fast break to FanDuel right now during the NBA playoffs, because new customers right now get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I love betting with FanDuel because they have great promotions literally every day. Their app is safe, secure, and it's super easy to use. Plus, you can get paid instantly with FanDuel, because there's no better place to bet all the playoff action for the NBA than America's #1 sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn all about it. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's get into it. Women's tennis team has finally done it. They have been dancing all around this NCAA Tournament championship for years now. It's really interesting because they have been a dominant force at the ITA National Championships, the indoor national championships that take place earlier in the season. They are both hard court, the NCAA tournament and the ITA national tournament, but one is indoor, the ITA, and the NCAA is outdoors. And so they are, and this is coming from me who played some tennis in college, that they are two very different things. Outside, you're dealing with the elements, the ball sits up a little bit longer. Typically, you're looking at a faster paced game inside. The ball is going to skid and go, and whew, boy, it is different enough that it really can make or break the difference in some of what I think some of what's happened with the women's team has just been the luck of sports and some coincidence, but some of it is just based on the slight nuances of the style of play of indoor and outdoor. So anyway, the women break through and for the first time have won the NCAA team championship. I specified team championship because starting today, Monday, and tomorrow there will be the individual, the singles national championships bracket starts, as well as the doubles for both the men and the women. We'll get into that in a second. Here's what's really cool about this championship. Per UNC, this is the 60th national championship for the University of North Carolina. Now, notice I don't specify NCAA championship because that's a different number. So North Carolina as a school has 60 national championships. 49 of those are specifically NCAA championships, meaning that the school has 11 non-NCAA championships. For example, those ITA indoor championships the women's tennis team has won are not NCAA championships. So that's why you have the discrepancy there. But of those 49 NCAA championships, 36 of them are coming from a women's team. And so really neat to see that. Now, you're probably aware this is the second NCAA championship this academic year for the University of North Carolina. Who is the other? Pause it if you got to remember. I'll count from 3, 2, 1. It is the field hockey team. That was the other. I bring that up because this is the 12th academic season that North Carolina has had multiple teams win the NCAA title in the same academic year. Just wild stuff for Carolina. Now, as to this specific NCAA championship for the women's team, just poetically beautiful that they did it while beating NC State. You might be aware that this was actually the third meeting between these two teams this season. Carolina won at home 7-0 earlier. They didn't play in Raleigh, but did meet again in the ACC Championship, in which the Wolfpack beat North Carolina 4-1. And in fact, that was the only match that North Carolina lost all season. Are you hearing me? The Tar Heels lost just one time, and it was unfortunately in the ACC Championship. But oh boy, did they get that revenge this weekend on Saturday, knocking off NC State 4-1 in the national championship. So as Carolina has done essentially all season, they won the doubles point, meaning for those who don't know how tennis scoring works at the Division I level, it's different scoring at different levels in college. But for Division I, you play 3 doubles matches, just one set for each one. Whoever wins 2 out of those 3 gets 1 point. And then you play 6 singles matches, best 2 out of 3 sets. And you need a total of 4 points out of the 7, 1 for the doubles and 6 singles matches. Each singles match is worth 1. And so whoever wins the doubles point is at an advantage because they only need to split the singles matches. But whoever loses the doubles needs to take 4 of those 6 singles to win. So Carolina won the doubles point. They only lost the doubles point in 4 matches all season long. That is insane. And ultimately, it was Carson Tanguillig that had the clinching match for the Tar Heels to win that first ever national championship. Great stuff there. And I said it was only a matter of time, and it's so true. The Tar Heels, listen to these numbers. National runner-up in 2014, Final Four in 2022, 2021, and 2019. Remember, no tournament in 2020, meaning Carolina has been in the Final Four now each of the last 4 tournaments and finally broke through. Even before that, they were in the Sweet 16 in 2018, the Elite 8 in 2017, Sweet 16, round of 32 in 2016, Elite 8 in 2015, and as I just said, national runner-up in 2014. So it has been a decade for these Tar Heels of just doing work on the women's side in tennis, finally punching through and getting it and putting themselves atop the mountain. Congrats to Brian Calvis and his team. Great stuff there. Because again, as a reminder, on the ITA side, the indoor championships, Carolina has won, not just like been in the Final Four, has won the national championship the last 4 in a row. And in fact, they've been to the championship match the last 9 tournaments straight. And so great stuff there. A very, very, once again, dominant season. By the way, following this championship, Carolina as a university is now fourth, they're fifth. I apologize. I got it wrong. 5th in the Directors' Cup standings right now. There are still about 9 or 10 more championships to be decided, but it looks like Carolina is in a good place to finish the season top 10 in the Directors' Cup. Now, as I said, singles and doubles championships start. Singles on Monday, doubles on Tuesday on both the men's and women's side. The men weren't quite up to the level of the women this year, but did have some success, and so we'll have some participants in these. We'll start with women's singles, where Carolina women have 5 entrants. Fiona Crawley is the number 1 overall seed. Reese Brantmeyer is the number 8 overall seed. And then Carson Tanguilig, Abby Forbes, and Annika Yargalata. No, I said her last name wrong. I apologize, Annika. It's Yarlagata. Is also in that bracket. In women's doubles, you have 2 of the teams for Carolina entered there. Reese Brantmeyer and Elizabeth Schade are one, with Fiona Crawley and Carson Tanguilig as the other. On the men's side, Brian Cernock and Ryan Segerman are in the singles. And then Cernock and Ben Kate are in doubles, along with Casey Kanaya and Ryan Segerman. And so excited to see what the Tar Heels can do in the singles and doubles brackets. As for baseball, they're moving into ACC play this week. And so just want to get you quickly updated on that. They were unfortunately swept at Clemson this weekend. So enter the ACC tournament as the 7th seed. You know that in the ACC, when there's 14 teams plus Notre Dame competing in most things. In baseball, there are only 14 teams because Syracuse doesn't compete in ACC play. And then just 12 of those 14 make the ACC tournament. It's Florida State and Louisville that are on the outside looking in. How weird is that to say about baseball? The way the ACC tournament works, there's 4 pods with 3 teams in each, and you play the other 2 teams in your pod. And whoever has the best record out of those 3 teams advances to the semifinals, which are both played on Saturday, with the ACC championship on Sunday. So basically there will be games running Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 games per day, all of them on ACC Network. And so there's the schedule. Now, you might recall that last year the Tar Heels rode an 8 seed all the way to the ACC championship. And that was great and is encouraging for this year, where the Tar Heels are 7th. But last year's team was on fire down the stretch. And, oh, by the way, had a healthy Vance Honeycutt patrolling center field, which they don't right now. We still don't have any firm things from Carolina. Other than that, he's got a lower body injury. So North Carolina's pod, they're matched up with Georgia Tech and Virginia. Virginia is the 2 seed in the ACC behind, obviously, if you've kept up with any college baseball this year, Wake Forest is far and away the best team in the country. So Virginia is the 2 seed, Carolina 7, and Georgia Tech 11. So Carolina will play Georgia Tech on Tuesday, 3 Eastern on ACC Network, and same time, same channel against Virginia on Thursday. So Carolina needs to win both of those games to advance to Saturday's semifinals, and obviously we'll stay up to date with that throughout the week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the beginning of a new week on Locked On Tar Heels. Hope you had a great weekend wherever you were and whatever you were doing. If you would, go drop us a review, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels or me at Isaac Schade. Shoot us an email, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Please don't forget to subscribe to the show, smash the like button, and leave your comments on today's show. I want to thank all of you for tuning in again. I want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. I'll be right back with you tomorrow on Tuesday. But until then, peace.